Everyone in the house learned to stay quiet when Victor was home. It wasn't because he yelled or slammed doors. Victor didn't need noise to make himself felt. He moved through the house like he owned the very air inside it, with slow footsteps and measured breathing. His presence made the walls feel closer than they were. When he entered a room, conversations just ended. Even the old clock in the kitchen seemed to tick more carefully, as if afraid of being heard. Victor had always been like that. After his sister Clara lost her husband, he moved in temporarily. That was the word he used, just until things settled. Just until she found her footing again. But grief doesn't settle, it spreads. Clara worked longer hours at the textile factory to keep the house. Morning shifts turned into nights, nights into doubles. She left before dawn and came home with her eyes red, hands raw, and body too tired to notice what had changed. Her daughter, Mara, stayed behind. 7 years old, small for her age, and quiet in a way that wasn't natural. Victor said he would watch her. "I'll keep an eye on the girl," he told Clara. "You focus on work." At first, Clara was grateful. Under Victor's care, Mara stopped asking questions. She stopped interrupting. She stopped running through the house. She learned to sit still, to fold her hands, to lower her eyes when Victor entered a room. Victor liked order. He liked rules. And he liked children who learned quickly. The room at the end of the hall became part of the house in a way it never had before. It wasn't a bedroom or for storage. It was empty, except for a chair and a single window set too high for a child to see through. Victor called it time to think. When Mara spilled water, she went there. When she forgot to say sir, she went there. When she cried too loudly at night, she went there. There was no shouting, no violence anyone could point to. Just a finger and a calm voice. Go think, the door didn't lock. It didn't need to. Mara learned to walk down the hall on her own. She learned to sit without moving, to count the cracks in the wall, the seconds between sounds, the distance between her breath and the silence that followed. Sometimes Victor stood outside the door. Not always. Just enough, listening. Weeks passed, then months. Mara grew thinner, her clothes hung loosely on her small frame. Her eyes avoided mirrors. She stopped playing outside. Even when other children called her name from the street. At school, teachers said she was well behaved. Victor smiled when Clara repeated that. She's learning, he said. Once, Clara noticed faint, finger-shaped bruises on Mara's arm. She asked. Mara hesitated. I fell, she said. Victor didn't interrupt or defend himself. He simply nodded, as if the matter was settled before it began. Children fall, he said, especially clumsy ones. Clara wanted to believe him. She needed to. Life was already heavy enough. One night, Clara worked late. Victor fed Mara and sent her down the hall afterward. It was routine by then. But this time, something felt wrong. The house was too still. Victor waited. Minutes passed, then longer. No footsteps. No movement. He frowned, irritation tightening his jaw, and walked down the hall. He opened the door. The chair was empty. The room was empty. The window was open. Victor froze. There were no footprints beneath the window, no broken bushes, no disturbed dust. The ground below was smooth, untouched, as if nothing had passed through. Mara was gone. Panic came later. At first, there was only disbelief. Search parties combed the neighborhood. Police questioned everyone. Victor answered calmly, slowly, with the same measured tone he used for everything. Yes, she was punished. Yes, she was sent to think. No, I didn't hear anything. Clara screamed until her voice gave out. She blamed herself. She blamed the house. She blamed the night. They never found Mara. Weeks turned into months, and the house changed. Victor noticed it first. Light footsteps at night, like bare feet, always stopping just outside the room at the end of the hall. Sometimes the chair scraped softly across the floor. Sometimes he heard breathing right behind him when he stood alone in the kitchen. He told himself it was guilt, stress, his imagination. But guilt doesn't open doors. One night, Victor woke to the sound of counting soft, careful, childlike. 1, 2, 3. It came from the hall, from the room. Victor stood frozen in bed, heart pounding, sweat soaking his shirt. The counting stopped. Then came a whisper. "Uncle, can I come out now?" Victor didn't scream. He ran. He packed his things before dawn and left town without telling Clara, without looking back. They say the house still stands, empty. And sometimes, when the wind moves just right, neighbors swear they hear counting coming from the end of the hall. Still waiting. Some doors don't need locks. Some punishments don't leave marks. And some people never leave the rooms they were sent to think in. Subscribe to Western Horror Stories for dark, human-centered tales of fear, guilt, and consequence. What do you think happened to Mara? Let me know in the comments.